Alright guys, welcome back to another weekly video. Today is not going to be a regular trick, as it is not a card trick. It is more of a story that I like to share with you guys in celebration of Halloween that's just gone. So here we go, let's jump into the performance. So hopefully everyone has heard of Jack the Ripper. He's a fairly prolific serial killer in London who was well known for murdering quite a few women, and the other thing he was famous for is the fact that he was never actually caught. Now today's trick, story is based around that, but based on another serial killer, less known around here but more prolific in Canada. His name was the Portrait Ripper. I'll explain why that is in just a second. He was well known for killing women, and he actually killed, I think it's around 29 different women. Now, his MO, what he used to do is he used to send pictures of the women his targets to the police, therefore giving them a sort of helping hand into helping them track him and stop any of the victims from being murdered. Now, the way he murdered the women was such a horrific way of killing anyone, really. He used to like take their eyes out and everything. It was absolutely just revolting, really. You don't want to really be picturing this anyway. But I'm going to be sharing you a story of a guy of a case. This is the case of the finale of the Portrait Ripper. This is the last time he ever actually killed anyone. However, he was still never caught. Now, the guy on the case, his name was Detective Sterling, and he'd been ridiculed, really, for the past, say, 3 years. This has been going on for. This has been going on a long time, and he'd been ridiculed because obviously the Portrait Ripper had been sending him pictures of his targets, and he had not been able to stop a single murder. Every time the Portrait Ripper had killed one person, and he became Detective Sterling became the laughingstock of the village, really, where he lived in Canada, because he had not been able to catch the Portrait Ripper, even though he was giving him clues. Now, I'll show you what I mean. This is the case here. Usually, I'll show you what I mean. He got 3 things. I'll show you the pictures in just a second. Now, these are the names of the 3 women, 3 victims here. Only one of them was murdered, but here are 3 names that he was sent as clues by the Portrait Ripper. We've got Annie Smith, we've got Bridget O'Hare, and we've got Charlotte Brown. Now, what I'm going to get you to do is, just using your intuition alone, I want you to decide on which one of these was murdered. And once you've decided, I'd like you to place it inside the envelope, and I will turn away as you do this. So let's just say you mix them up. Okay, and let's just go for this one here, and you place it inside the envelope just like this, and then place the other 2 underneath the envelope, so I do not know which one you have selected. So you've thought of a name here. You, using your intuition, believe that you know which one of those names was murdered by the Portrait Ripper. Now, I'm going to show you the 3 images here. I'm going to show you the 3 images of the so-called victims of the Portrait Ripper. So over here we have the first picture. So I'm going to give you the names of these women, and I want you to see if you can put a name to the face. So this one here is called, this one's Annie Smith. Okay, this one's Annie Smith. So if you're, I don't know if you're thinking of Annie Smith, but if you are, try and remember what she looks like for later on. So okay, so there we go. We have Annie Smith. Here we have this is Charlotte This is Charlotte Brown, so if you think of Charlotte Brown, please remember what she looks like. Perfect. And the final one we have here is, if I can, there we go. Perfect. And we have here the other one, Bridget O'Hare. So if you're thinking of Bridget O'Hare, please remember what she looks like. Perfect. So basically what I want you to do is just remember the name that you're thinking of, and we shall remember, we'll come back to these in just a second. So I'll place them just onto your hand. We're going to pretend that this section is your hand here and you can look after them. Now the weird thing about this case is usually whenever the portrait ripper would send Detective Sterling the images of the three women, there'd be three completely random women that nobody knew who they were. However, this time, in this particular case, the finale of the portrait ripper, he'd sent Detective Sterling pictures of three women that he knew. He knew all three of them. He'd sent a picture of his sister, a picture of his wife, and a picture of his mistress, a woman who he'd been having an affair with for quite a while. So he knew who all three of the women were and knew exactly where they were. So what he did was he sent police over to his mistress's house, he sent police over to his sister's house for protection, and they were protected, and he himself went to go check on his wife. However, the police still do not know what happened to Detective Sterling, as he was never seen again. Never once was he seen in the street, never once was he seen back at the police station. He was missing. As well as this, they'd found the dismembered body of his wife. Detective Sterling's wife was murdered and her eyes were pulled out, just like the MO of the portrait ripper. So it turns out that Detective Sterling was a bit too late. Now, I must say that Detective Sterling's wife, before she was Mrs. Sterling, her maiden name was Annie Smith. Now, I don't know which name you're thinking of, but you placed one inside this envelope. Let's just see which one you thought of. There you go, Annie Smith. Don't know how you would have done that. And obviously, if you're thinking of Annie Smith, the person you are thinking of would have had a long blonde ponytail right down coming over her shoulder. That is the image I showed you earlier. And yes, that was Detective Sterling's wife. Now, no one actually knows what happened to Mrs. Sterling or Annie Smith, but there are some theories that perhaps Detective Sterling himself was the portrait ripper. For a while now, he'd been going off the rails and had not been able to stop the portrait ripper in time, even though it was 29 times he'd failed to capture the portrait ripper, which was slightly suspicious. And he himself went alone to go protect his wife, yet she was the only one that had been murdered. Now, loads of people would say that this theory is not true. However, when the police went to check it back at the police station in his drawer and checked the images, something fairly suspicious had occurred. If we take a look, they found the two pieces of this woman. I've forgotten what her name was, probably Bridget O'Hare or Charlotte Brown. And they'd found the other two pieces of this woman here. Now, the reason many people believe that Annie Smith and many other people would say that Detective Sterling was to blame as the portrait killer, and they framed him as the portrait killer, because not only were these two still ripped in half, but the one of his wife somehow put back together. And not only would other people say that Detective Sterling killed his wife would definitely back them up on that and say that till death do us part. And there you go, that is the story of the portrait ripper. Bit more of a serious one this time. Anyway, we'll jump right into the outro. Yeah. So that was today's little performance. I hope you enjoyed this Halloween special of an effect. It wasn't the best performance because I haven't done it in a while, but I might start doing it again. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.